Uh,
Okay, so today's Amud is Makos Taf Zayin on the base. We're starting a new parak. It's at the bottom of Zayin on the Says the Mishnah, Elu hena goylim. These are the people that go to Golus. Right? If someone, Reuben kills Shimon by accident, he goes to Golus. There was 3 cities in the country that people would, or 6, I can't remember, but if you killed someone by accident, you went to those cities and they had to spend the rest of their life there. And if they left the city, then the relatives of the guy that were killed accidentally can avenge his death and kill the guy. So the Rishonim asks, why are we talking about now here? Which are the people that go to Golus? What's it got to do with Makos? Why is it the next Mishnah is Eileen? Why are we talking about now who goes to Golus? So what they say is because the first Mishnah in the first parak was talking about Goylim, when Adam say that someone's chayav to be goyla. So now we're carrying on explaining like who goes to Golus exactly. It's like an explanation of the previous parak. So Eilen and Goylim, these are the guys that go to Golus. So Hayreg Nefesh B'Shkaga, you kill someone accidentally. Now the Mishnah is going to explain, give a few different cases. Someone is smoothing down his roof. They used to make an angle on the roof with cement. I guess the roof was flat, wood or whatever they put there, and then they made cement on it. They gave like an angle, an incline using cement, and they would use a big piece of wood to push it down, to smooth it out, that the rain would come off. So if he's pushing down, Rashi says the magal part is pushing down. The magil is when you pull up the stick. So they go up and down. So magil, you're pushing down this plank of wood. And the plank falls off the roof, kills someone. V'nafla ala vargase, falls off the roof and kills someone. Next case, he's drawing down a bucket. V'nafla of it, it falls on a guy underneath and kills him. Next case, a guy is walking down a ladder, v'nafla and then he falls on the guy underneath, vargase, and he kills him. So Hare Zeh Gaila, in all 3 cases he goes to Golus. Avo, but in the opposite way, in Moishech B'Chavili, he's pulling up this plank of wood, V'nafla alav Vargasai, and he kills him. Hayadoyle B'Chavis, he's pulling up this bucket, and he kills the guy. He's pulling up a bucket from a roof, and it falls and kills him. V'nifsek Achava V'nafla Vargasai, and it kills him. Or Hayadoyle B'Sulim, if he's climbing up a ladder, in that case, he is not Gaila. So, Zaklal, this is the rule. If it's on the way down, you go to Golus. If it's not on the way down, Einai Gaila. Notice it doesn't say if it's on the way up, Einai Gaila. It says if it's not on the way down. We'll see what difference that makes. But one of the questions that they ask over here is, Taisa says, why do you need 3 cases? It's a simple rule. Down, yeah. Up, no. Why does he bring 3 cases? So Taisa says that it's a loizu avzu. Starts with the easier case and goes on to the bigger chiddush or bigger chiddush. Why? Because with the plank of wood, the wood's not very valuable. Plank of wood, if it falls, it's not going to break. So maybe he wasn't careful with the piece of wood. He's up there, he's working, he doesn't care what happens to the wood, it falls. Wow, you're so uncareful, go to Golus, right? And the next case is, he's got to borrow a bucket, a kli. Now that's actually worth something, and if it breaks, if it falls, it's breaking. So probably he's going to be more careful there. Even in that case, he goes to Golus. Even though he was a little bit careful, because he's got this bucket, he doesn't want to break, he's got this kli. And the third case is, he himself is going down the ladder, he doesn't want to fall and break his neck. So he's being very careful. Even so, he was being careful. If he falls, he still goes to Golus. So that's the Taisus. Taisus says Leizu Avzu. Not only this, even that. Now why isn't the guy not Gaila? The Rishonim explain. In the case of where he's not Gaila, he's on the way up. Why are you not Gaila? So there's 2 options. Either you're not Gaila. If Reuben kills Shimon, he's not Gaila either because it's Einus, it's curved Einus. There's nothing he could do. There's no way to foresee that. There was no way for him to foresee that whatever it is going to break and kill someone. It was totally out of the ordinary. It was einus. Einus means unforeseen circumstance. It was out of his control. So in that case, he's potter legamre. He doesn't have to go to God because the guy did nothing wrong, right? But in the case of, there's something called korov lepshia where he was negligent, and therefore he can't be guided because you should have taken more care. Regardless of a guy who it was really an accident, you should have taken a lot more care. You were a little bit negligent. You were you're too negligent to be zeicher to Goddess. It's too good for you. The Rambam says, why is derech aliyah goyla? Why is derech yerida goyla, derech aliyah not goyla? So he explains, when you're going down, it's very easy for something to go wrong, right? You're lowering a bucket, gravity's pulling it down, it can slip easily, so you're extra careful. When you're pulling up, it's much less likely people fall down the steps when they're going down more likely than when they're going up, because you're going against gravity, you're going against it. It's less likely that you're going to fall. When you're going down, you've got to be more careful. You've got to hold on to the banisters because you're losing your balance, gravity's pulling you down, you're on the way down, you've got to be more careful. That's why on the way down, you're goyla, because it was more likely you've got to be careful on the way up. It's like, listen, the guy was on the way up, he shouldn't have seen this happening. Pnei Yeshua seems to ask, who cares what the reason is? It's Gzeras HaKosov. And he just explains that because if you wouldn't have a reason, so maybe we'd learn one from the other. Once you say there's something else going on here, up is different to down. It's not just a Gzeras HaKosov, biblical, nothing you do. But the point is that there's a reason why the Torah says down, yeah, up, no. So it says the gemmorrah. From where do we know that down, yeah, up, no? Amar Shmuel, the Amakra, it says in the pasuk, V'yipol ola v'yomas. It falls on him and he dies. Ad sheyipol derech nefila. It's got to be full derech nefila, on the way down. So from here he learns that it's got to be on the way down. Drosha. Okay, Tana Rabbanan. The Mishnah says, B'shkaga. The Gemara is now going to quote this whole pasuk that talks about killing someone by accident, and it makes a whole bunch of droshes. B'shkaga prat lemezid. It says if he kills him unintentionally, to exclude if it's intentionally. So if you kill someone intentionally, no galus. And then it says in the pasuk b'vli das, without any seichel, without knowledge. Prat lemischaven. That's to exclude someone who had intention. So Gemara asks. So Gemara says, Mazid Pshita. What do you mean? You come to exclude Mazid? Why would you need a pasuk to tell me that Mazid isn't Gaila? Bakatalahu. If someone kills someone intentionally, what's it then? He's chayv misa, bakatalahu. You kill him. So what do you need a pasuk to tell me? B'shkaga prat lemazid. Of course, a Mazid, you kill him. So Rava says, you know what you need the case for? Prat la'ema muta. A guy thinks it's muta to kill. If someone thinks it's muta to kill, he's not a mazid. So therefore, you need a pasuk to tell me that guy. The guy's walking around, thinks there's nothing wrong with killing. He kills someone. Oh, how you doing? I like your shoes. Boom, shoots him. He doesn't know it's asa, right? So that guy doesn't go to Golis. Amalei. Abaye, if the guy thinks it's muta, einisu, then he's an einus, right? The poor guy doesn't know it's muta. That's called a mistake. Shkoga means a mistake. The guy has no idea he's doing something wrong. So why does the Gemara? So he's asking a question of the Lashon. Why did you call him a mazid? He's not a mazid. He's an einus. Amalei shani oimer ha'omer muta karav le'mazidu. Someone who thinks it's muta to kill someone. That's not a neinus. That's basically a mazid. It's not a mazid. It's not intentional mamish. It's not completely intentional. He doesn't know it's asa, but it's karv mazid. So, a couple of questions here. Just the Orcha now asks. The Mishnah spoke about killing on the way down, killing on the way up. What about killing sideways, guys? Why does the Mishnah speak about that? You're not on the way up. You're not on the way down. What's going to be the din? So l'cheira it's potter, because the Mishnah doesn't say kol shel b'derech aliyah potter. It doesn't say if you're on the way up, you're potter. It says if you're not on the way down, you're not chayiv. Meaning if you're not on the way down, so sideways is not on the way down. Sideways, for example, a guy throws a stone sideways, So that's going to be potter. Because it says, as long as you're not on the way down, you're potter. Interesting diak. Taisus asks, so first of all, take a look at the top Taisus, Pshita, Bakatolhu. Someone kills someone intentionally, of course he doesn't go to Golas. Tema, Ema Mazid, Tema, Ema B'Mazid, V'lai Hisubay. Maybe we're talking about a case of a Mazid. The guy killed someone intentionally, but they didn't do Asra. There's witnesses, he killed him, but there was no warning. And if there's no warning, we all know you don't kill the guy, right? She's not Chayv Misa. In which case, you need a pasuk to tell me, don't put him in Golas. You can't kill him because he's a Mazid. You can't kill him because there was no Asra. Maybe the guy should go to Golas. There's a good kasha. The Torah is telling me when someone kills someone with Mazid, and we don't kill him because there's no Asra, put him in Golas. Yeshleima, so Torah says there's two pasukim over here. It says, okay, others want to learn, not two pasukim, others want to learn that it's by Mazid, even though you don't kill him, you kill him in a kippah. You still throw him in prison and let him rot till he dies. So it's still going to be you kill him. It's still correct. The Gemara says you kill the guy. Of course you don't put him in Golas. Okay, so in other words, if Reuben kills Shimon, we know it was intentional, just there was no warning. Of course we put the guy in kippah. We have him die there. They starve him to death. Whatever they do, they feed him barley until his stomach explodes. Of course you don't put him in Golas. You don't let him live his life in one of these beautiful Ari Mikla. Says the Gemara. And there's another question, next places, by the way. Pratla Eimah Mutar. Very interesting. Someone's a Tinnik Shnishba. Vikasha. The Gabi Chelev, the Gabi Shabbos, the Chsiv B'Shneim Shkaga, Chayvim Prepare Gadol, B'Tinnik Shnishba, the Bein HaNochrem. So let's say someone grows up, he's adopted, he grows up by the Goyim, he's kidnapped. In those days they were kidnapped, he's brought up as a Goy, and he doesn't know he's Jewish. Then he finds out when he's older that, guess what, you're a Yid. So he has to bring a carbon for what he did wrong. So why does he have to bring a carbon? He's like a mutter. He thinks it's mutter. He has no idea he's a Jew. He has no idea what the loch is. Why does he have to bring a carbon? Why here does it seem like Omer Mutter is not a shkaga? But you see by your Tinnik Shnishba, it is considered a shkaga. Okay, interesting. Take a look at it. Let's keep going in the Gemara. Gemara says, Bivli das. It says in the pasuk he kills him without das. Prat lemischaven. This comes to exclude someone who does it intentionally. So the Gemara asks, Miskaven pshita bakatolhu. Of course, if it's intentional, it's the same thing as b'mezid, right? You kill him. It's the same. Would you need two psukim? It's the same thing. Amar Rabbi prat lemischaven largas abehema v'hargas adam. He intended to kill an animal. He's shooting this gun. He wants to kill an animal, but he killed a person. So in that case, l'chayra einoi gaila. Gemara says, Amar Rabba, Lukusi v'hargis Yisrael, the Nafal v'harg b'akiyama. Three cases. The guy he thought he was killing a guy who was a dead guy. And it turns out the guy was going to live. He thought the guy was on his deathbed. And it turns out he was alive. Okay. Tanu Rabbanon. In Befeta, it says in the pasuk, in Befeta, Prat lekaran zovis. If a guy's coming around the corner, he's walking around with a knife sticking out, he goes into around the corner, he stabs this guy, ain't a gaila. He doesn't go to Golas. Below Yeba, unintentionally, it says in the pasuk, Prat l'seina. If you hated the guy, you're not gaila. Hadafai, he pushed him, shadachve begufai. Sorry, shadachve begufai. If he pushed him with his body, it's a big machayik is what this means. Is if he pushed him with his body, the pasuk says if he throws a stone on him. Now, what does it mean oyhishlichalav? Lahavi yirida shilitzarech aliyah. If something's going down, in order to come up, we'll see a case. Yirida shilitzarech aliyah. So yirida shilitzarech aliyah. L'chayr is saying ain't a gaila. Normally you read a gaila for. But if you're going down in order to go up, then you're not gaila. Beloitz dia, he didn't hunt him. Prat lemischaven atzad zeh So the guy he wants to throw the axe in this direction, he goes in the other direction, he kills the guy. Vasher loy tzada, it says in the pasuk. What does it mean? Vasher loy tzada, pratlem schaven lizok shtayim v'zorak arba. He wanted to go in that direction. He got the direction right. He thought the arrow was going to go 2, it went 4. He thought the stone was going to only get to, it went further and he killed the guy. Vasher yova yisraelu bayar. It says in the pasuk, he finds his friend in the yar, in the forest. My yar reshus l'nizik l'mazik. So a yar, there's permission for the nizik and the mazik to be there. L'kanesham. Afkal reshus l'nizik l'mazik l'kanesham. He is only gaila if it's allowed to be. If they're both allowed to be there. If they're not both allowed to be there, so ain't a gaila. So the Rishonim want to know what's going to be the din in a case where. So what's the idea? If they both have rishus to be there, why are you throwing your axe around? Just like you're allowed to be there, he's allowed to be there. So you don't know he's there. You might not have seen him, but he's allowed to be here. He's in the forest. People walk around. It's not your private forest. So what's going to be the din? I'm asking in a case where the guy that's killed is allowed to be there. The victim's allowed to be there. It's his house, or he has rishus to be in a third party's house, but the mazik isn't allowed to be there. You walked into this guy's house. You threw an axe. Are you goyla? Or you walked in, or you're both in. It's in the third party's garden. The nizik's allowed to be there, but the mazik wasn't allowed to be there, and he throws his axe, or Ritzach throws the axe. Is he gaila or not? So take a look in Taisvus. Taisvus says, "Ma ya sheyesh lo rishus li nizik lo mazik l'kanasham." Taisvus says, "V'kasha." The mistama kumayke name maya mokum shoemet shama mazik. L'chera in the forest, they're both standing in the forest. It's not that they're allowed to be there; they're actually both physically in the forest. It says in the Snan, so it says if a guy throws a stone from his house into Rosh Hashanah, he's allowed to be in his rishus, in his house. He's allowed to be in Rosh Hashanah. He throws a stone, gaila. Even though they weren't both in the same rishus, right? He's talking about a case where he broke his wall down. Shuba shusai. Varaganizik shuba sharabim. Now ask Tais my gaila. Vabinim umakim shiva shus lenizik lemazik. L'chayra, from this pasuk, they should both be in the same rishus, like in the yah. Why, if he's in his house and he's in the yard, l'chayr, this pasuk should be memayat that he shouldn't be gaila. Only if they're both in the yard. Here they're not both in the yard. He's in his house and he's in the yard. So v'yesh leima d'lo yalef menei mokem ha'kah, ela sheyesh reshus l'shneim la'akev mokem ha'kah. The point from this pasuk is that they both have reshus to be where they are. They don't have to both be in the same place. They're both allowed to be where they are. So don't say, why were you there? I didn't know you were there. He has rishus to be there. You have rishus to be in your house. You have rishus to be in the street. And therefore, goyla. Says the Gemara. Ba minei Rabbi vo Rabbi Yochanan. Rabbi asked Rabbi Yochanan, Haya oile besulam. The guy's walking up this ladder. He's climbing up. V'nishmat hashaliva. And the rung, is that what it's called? The ladder has a rung. The rung breaks underneath him and falls. So the rung falls, v'harga, and the rung kills someone, not the guy kills. If the guy kills, he's walking up and he falls, pata. But he's walking up and the rung goes down. So he's up and the rung's down. He's moving upwards and the rung's moving downwards, right? Mouse, so what's going to be the din? Ki gavna liyahi or yuridi? So the question is, do you look at the man, he's going up, or you look at the rung and the rung is going down? You step on the rung moves down, and eventually it falls down and kills this guy. So Amalei Kvarnagata, we've already touched upon this, but you read the Shilitzera Chaliyah. I like the way that the shyness we use nowadays, language use, like you've already touched on this. It's a Lashon more Kvarnagata, you've already touched it, right? So we've already touched upon this as actually a gemmorrah Lashon. Kvarnagata, you read the Shilitzera Chaliyah. That's called you read the Shilitzera Chaliyah. We said you read the Shilitzera Chaliyah, ain't a gaila, right? So even though the rung is going down, but it's going down in order for him to go up. Okay. But why is the rung going down? Because he's going up. It's happening simultaneously. So someone want to say, I don't understand. How does that answer the question? The question was, do you look at him, would you look at the rung? That was the question. Would you look at him or the rung? And now you're saying that the rung is going down for him. Okay, so what that means is that if you're right, even if you look at the rung, but it's a Yiridish Tzar Chaliyah. Amalei, sorry, Isivei. Zaklal. This is the rule. It says in the Mishnah, Kol shebederach yirudasa goyla, shalai b'yudasa eina goyla. That was the Mishnah. Shalai b'derach yirudasa. If it's not on the way down, l'suyimai. What's this coming to include? What's this coming to teach me? Lav l'suyei ki agavne. Isn't it coming to teach me this type of case with the rung? This is what it's coming to tell me. The eina goyla. Eina goyla. That's what we can learn from the addition of the Mishnah. Kol shebederach yirudasa. The taimech. So answers us more backwards. In that case, kol shebederach yirudasa l'suyimai. So then what's kol shebederach yirudasa? Is goyla, what's that coming to include? So the first half of the Mishnah says, if it's on the way down, you are goyla. Kol shebederach, that's saying, bederach yidasa goyla. Kol shebederach yidasa, what's that coming to include? Ela l'suyeh, it's coming to include the whole Mishnah of this kol. What are the two kols coming to include? Ela l'suyeh katzav, it's coming to include the butcher. Hochanami l'suyeh katzav, just like the Reish is coming to include katzav, the Sefer is also coming to include katzav. Don't tell me that this Sefer is coming to include the rung of a ladder. The Tanya, what's the whole thing of the butcher? What's going on with the butcher? The Tanya, it says in a brisa, Katzav shoya mekatzev. He's throwing his chopping knife around. Tana Chada, one Tana says, Lefan of Chayev. Lachayra of Potter. This gets a little bit complicated. If it's in front of him, he's Chayev. If it's behind his back, he's Potter. The Tanya Idich, another one says, Lachayra of Chayev, behind him he's Chayev, but Lefan of Potter. So he swings this heavy knife behind him and in front of him. One says in front Yechayev, behind your pot. The other says behind your pot, in front Yechayev. Stira, it's a big machlekes. V'tanya Yidich. And another brisa says, another mandama says, Bein lefal of bein la'achar of Chayev. Either way you're Chayev. V'tanya Yidich, bein lefal of bein la'achar of Potter. Either way you're Potter. So you've got all the options here. Potter, Chayev, Potter, both are Potter, both are Chayev. V'loi kasha. It's not a kasha, the Gemara says. How are you going to explain this? Kan b'yirida shelefonav v'aliyah shela'achrav. So what's yirida shelefonav? You swing it down in front of him. Down in front of him is chayav. V'aliyah shela'achrav, and behind him he's going up. So it's this motion. He's swinging forward. He's coming up behind him and down in front of him. Right? In that case, and kan b'aliyah shelefonav yirida shela'achrav. In the other case is Bali Shalafonov, it's coming up in front of him and down behind him. And can be Yirida Shalafonov Shalachrov. One is where it's Yirida Shalafonov Vishalachrov. They're both going down, that way down and that way down. And one is both way up this way or up that way. So depending on what we're talking about, that's going to be the dinner. Down is always Chayev, up is always Mutter, is always Potter, depending on, what's the case. Up, down, up. Okay, so that's what we're going to learn from the addition of Kol Esuyimai to teach me about the Bishop. So Leimak Tanai, should we say this is a Machlekes Tanaim? It says Haya'elam Besulam, if he's climbing the ladder V'nishmata Shliva Mitachtav and the wrong falls from under him. So Tani Chada Chayev and Tani Idich Potter. One says Chayev, one says Potter. So this is our case. He's climbing the ladder. The rung breaks, kills someone. One says Chayev, one says Potter. What's the din? Isn't this the machlekes? Masav Yeridahi, Masav Alihi. One says it's an aliyah, one says it's a Yerida. Do you look at the guy? You look at the rung. What do you look at? So Gemara answers, "Lo, the kula alma aliyahi." Everyone agrees when he's going up the ladder, it's an aliyah. V'lo kasha. Why does one say a Chayev, one say a Potter? Kan lenezikin, kan legolus. The gabe nezikin, you always Chayev. But agabe galus, you Potter. So what does it mean Chayev and Potter? One is referring to monetary damages. The wrong falls and breaks the guy's car, you got to pay. For nezek, you're always responsible. Shegeg, mezid, diners, you've damaged, pay. I don't care what your intentions were. Legalus, you Potter. By saying golas. No, we're talking about golas. You could say, of course, they're both talking about golas. So when you pot, when you chayiv, like kasha, hodas liya. This is when the rung is rotten. V'adalai sliya. This is when the rung is not rotten. So if the rung is rotten, when the guy steps on the rung goes down a bit. So then the rung itself has yerida. Before it breaks, before it falls, the rung had the yerida. If the rung isn't rotten, so the rung stayed in place, and then it just came out of the sides, it just fell down. So if it went down, then there's yerida, then you chayiv. But if it's not rotten, it didn't bend, then it just fell. Or you could say that if the rung is rotten, when he steps on it, his whole foot goes down. So even though he's going up, but the foot goes down. But I don't know why, that's not what they're saying. They say the rung itself has yerida. Or you could say, we're talking about the rung is not rotten. The question is, the rung in the ladder, was it in there tight, couldn't move, there was no budge, or there was space for it to budge in that? So when he steps on it, it moved down slightly, and then it fell. So then the rung had yerida. So if the rung has yerida, then you chayiv. If the rung doesn't have a yerida, if the rung doesn't have yerida at all, then you potter. Okay, so Ad kan. It's already 9 o'clock. Shkoyach. Okay, good. Question.